Hello guys, welcome back to my channel, The Manga Man. Today we're talking about World Trigger Chapter 202. This month's release is only one chapter, and to be honest with you, I don't mind. With the amount of content and actual dialogue we have in these chapters that we get, and the fact that we have been getting two quite regularly, to me is we're actually lucky in that sense, because a while ago we had like about 2 years off, and honestly, it was really depressing. So, if it's just one chapter a month, I'm actually happy with it, just purely down to how much information we have in these chapters. With that being said, let's get into this review. So, what a chapter. Um, a lot of actually little things happen in this chapter, which really lets me think that this mangaka really knows what he's doing. And the second part to that makes me hope that he has enough health to complete his story. Because this is a guy who wrote a full book on secondary and tertiary characters that we barely see in the story in a book called The Border File. He had like complete backgrounds for every single member of Border and different characters that we've seen throughout the story. This guy has it down to a T in terms of data, knowledge, background, and so on and so forth. So I really hope he is able to complete his story. That being said, at the end of the chapter, it does say that we're going to get a chapter next month. There's no breaks, so hopefully we'll get this carrying on. So anyway, chapter review. We get a few little bits of information. One of them made me laugh, and I'm sure you know which part I'm referring to. But we get kind of reconfirmation. You heard it right. Yotaro and his sister are prince and the princess of Asteria, or Aristera. Sorry, I always get that wrong. Then we get a few different kind of tidbits of the lore and the world when it comes to the World Trigger. So the World Trigger is the mother trigger as far as we're concerned. She is the operator of that trigger, and then we get Rata, I believe it is, who basically says, "Oh, so is she the new god of this world? If so, why is it only that? Why have you got that small of a base?" And this is kind of a throwback to what Aftercrater were after. Remember, they were looking for someone to replace their god, so someone with a high level of Tryon, and which is why they were after Chica. And if they failed, they were going after Hugh's master, which is why Hughes wants to get back. So I'm assuming it's some type of sacrifice where the Tryon gets used up, and basically we get told that no, that isn't the case, because basically we're living fine without Tryon. So in this sense, I guess them using a person's Tryon as a sacrifice to become this new god is essentially creating the world or creating the atmosphere or oxygen via Tryon for these humanoid neighbors to live. So because Earth, it doesn't have that problem, if you think about it, we're adding a bit of science to the equation and law. So this is why they need this Tryon and the trigger and everything else. So that's an interesting tidbit to bear in mind. And then we get another revelation, another terminology that's quite interesting. And it's to do with, so the trigger is called a crown trigger. So when there's not a god as such and an operator, there's a crown trigger that protects and is a guardian for the royalty or the people that can operate them with a trigger. And it turns out to be Raijin Maru of all things. And it's like, yeah, this person here, this thing here, this animal, this Raijin Maru is our crown trigger. The most powerful trigger in the world is an animal. And the fact that he mentioned, and we see like a panel that basically describes what Jin was worried about, that him rampaging if the prince got hurt, is crazy when you saw him like he's ripping up. It's like literally Godzilla tearing up everything, and that made me chuckle. That made me laugh. To find out that Raijin Maru is basically the crown trigger, and then we get little tidbits about what happened with Gallopolo or Gallo. That basically they're a vassal state they were forced to. They were essentially taken over. The royalty was taken out, and then Mother Trigger was taken hostage. Sounds familiar. So I'm wondering, of course, the prince and princess of Aristera are here on Earth, or Medan. Um, what's going on with their world? Are they now like a vassal country for whoever took them over 5 years ago? It's interesting. I don't know if they're going to explore that in the future. Maybe Yotaro gets to go home and see his home country or home world. So that was an interesting coincidence as well, which is probably why they were surprised when it was mentioned that it was, they're alive. And then this is where kind of is the reinforcement of alliances are discussed, because they know the situation. They can see into the future. We discussed the whole thing with Jin, and he basically said, look, it's in your best interest to kind of join hands with us. And he's like, my side effect tells me. The fact that Jin pulled that line, every time I saw that in the anime and I read that, always puts a smile to my face, just because I'm a big fan of Jin, other than Yuma Kuga and a few other characters. Yeah, the fact that he said that line was pretty funny and amazing to me. Then we get this whole thing where they go back to the ship and they have a discussion, and Rata and Reggie are basically talking to the other members of the Golopolo team, and Gatlin is, saying, what should we do and what do you want to do with this? And then they come back and they basically hand over the data with the Alliance, and this time Rata and Reggie introduce themselves to Osamu and Yuma, who will basically be like the representatives of Earth, I guess, and Tomakoma B. And basically they hand over the data, but they do a test, and basically we see Jin kind of guessing correctly using his trigger, his side effect, what's in his pocket, and it turns out to be a bracelet. So he passed the test, so he's obviously the real deal. We knew that, but they didn't know that. When you think about it, and they do think about it on the actual deck of their ship, they think, well, it makes sense that they could see the future because they were always one step ahead of us, which is why they anticipate them going after the hangar and the away ship. That being said, they form this alliance, and there's an interesting thing that basically Yuma says that we find out at the end of the chapter. He goes, yeah, he was pretty much telling the truth other than the beginning part with his name. And then we find out literally at the end who he is. But before that, there is a little tidbit that I wanted to mention. The away tests haven't happened yet, and it's 50-50. And by Jin saying, listen, you hold this bracelet so you can connect and talk to these people in a distress signal situation, is an added motivation for him to pass the test. And it says it could go either way. So there's a chance that he could go through, and there's a chance that he doesn't pass. We're obviously hoping by the skin of his teeth he passes, but the fact that they're making that apparent is reminding us that event is still to take place, if you have forgotten. Considering it's a monthly chapter, it's easily done. That being said, we also get another tidbit that basically says that Jin is staying on Earth to protect Earth. Does that mean other S-Class or Black Trigger users are going to be staying on Earth, such as Amo? And will Fujin stay on Earth as well? We don't know. It does add a level of worry to this away mission, because ultimately they won't be able to use his foresight and his future telling to their advantage. But hopefully it doesn't turn out too bad, and we got plenty of exciting things to look forward to. And then the lovely shocker at the end, we see, Rata and Reggie go back to the ship, and Gatlin says, the way he says it is nice, he goes, when it comes to this squad, what I say goes, but when it comes to the future of Golopolo, that's where you step in. And then it shows like a side-by-side after image of what he used to be, and it gives you his name. He is the fourth prince of Golopolo. He's 17 years old, and his name is Orkan Marduk, based on the translations in the official release. That being said, an amazing revelation. So much parallels between Golopolo and Aristera. Could this be the joining part that they have in common that really makes and breaks, or well, hopefully makes the deal and keeps the alliance. We'll have to wait and see. As always, thank you for getting to the end of this video. Please like, comment, share and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.